Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Gina.
And I'm Evo.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
And if you're in the Northeast, it is starting to get warm out this bitch.
Summertime's around the corner.
It's not. It's like
It is for me.
It's like 3 months
Fuck
away.
the bullshit.
Still.
I can smell it.
Maybe
I'm from the islands. You know, as soon as that weather starts to change, you can smell that shit in the air.
Maybe it's the new flowers that we got.
I don't know. It's fucking something. I'm ready. Let's go.
I am also ready to, even though I will be slightly sad to put away my fuzzy socks.
No more sweater weather.
I know.
No more.
We actually have a really great topic for everybody. This is off the back of our conversation the last 2 weeks where we talked about secrets that husbands and wives will keep. And one of the secrets that kind of went super duper viral was the conversation of what wives will conceal when they're making purchases in the home.
Mm-hmm.
Put that out there, and a lot of people had a lot to say about it. But I will say that the comments I felt like were pretty split. Some people said that they didn't conceal shit and, you know, the money was theirs. It was equal between husband and wife and they didn't conceal any of their purchases. But then there were a lot of people that said the complete opposite, that even though in their home finances were discussed, they still concealed some of the purchases that they made.
Yeah. And just, looking into it a bit, I found that there's many different ways to manage money in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like this 7 rule or 7 different ways to manage. And reflecting back to the comments and seeing how many people were saying, yes, it was okay. No, it wasn't okay. It started to kind of plug into those 7 different ways. And I was like, okay, now I see how this is all laid out in the comment section and people are all over the place. It's because they fall into these different ways of managing your money in a relationship. So we're going to get into that later, but I just wanted to kind of touch on that because that those 2 things kind of came together once I realized the different ways that you can manage money in a relationship.
So thus being our topic today is money in marriage.
Money in marriage. There's love in marriage, and then there's money in marriage.
But before we get into our topic, I would like to take a moment to ask a favor. If you could subscribe, press any button that tickles your fancy, because that button pressing will help us continue to grow and continue to put out content for you. So subscribing to our channel, whether it be YouTube, following us on TikTok, following us on Instagram. You can find that information in our bio below. You could click the link, take you to any of the pages. However you choose to consume our content, whether you like to watch us here on YouTube or you like to listen to us on podcasting, whatever works for you, fam.
Yes,
just go ahead and push that button.
You should definitely live your life with one good deed a day. And if you haven't done that yet, then share. Sharing is the best thing you can do in life. So just share this content and you can just chalk that up as your good deed for the day.
Fucking Evil's on his Sarah McLachlan shit. He's like, for $1 a day.
Just for $1 a day. You too can sponsor a podcast.
So let's get into our topic, money and marriage. So the first thing that I wanted to start off by saying was I felt somewhat saddened by how many women in the comments were saying that they were concealing the purchases that they were making. In addition, to go a little deeper, some of the women in the comments were actually saying that they were almost fearful to have these sort of conversations with their husbands about how they spent money because they felt this immense amount of guilt.
Mm-hmm.
That got me thinking, why is it that they feel guilty? Why is it that the wives in these marriages are feeling guilty about the purchases that they're making and how they're managing their money within their marriage? And then I guess it got me thinking about what does actually guilt mean? Why do we feel guilt? What is this feeling? And the reason why it made me think about what guilt really is, because that's how I think I can better understand why some of these women are actually feeling guilty about making these purchases, because I needed to understand it on a microscopic level.
Sure. Because
it's so easy just to say, I feel guilty, but why do you feel guilty? So I scoured the internet to try to understand the depth of why someone can feel guilt. And it comes to my understanding that you tend to feel guilt from one of three reasons. And it is you are not living in your true self or living for your true self. You feel like you have done something wrong, or you're not living or doing something proper. So when I think about those three scenarios, you've done something wrong, you're not living or doing something proper, or you're not living your true self. For me, and me only, this doesn't apply to everybody, because even when I had a little discussion about this, I feel like it goes back to maybe a lot of these women are not living their true self. And what I mean by that is maybe they've made a sacrifice of their career to be a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sacrifice, they have put something on hold that for a large portion of their life they have always done. But for the greater good of the the greater good of the family,
sure,
they choose to stay home to
Right.
take care of their children. Thus, if something is on pause in their life so that they can maintain another aspect, they're essentially not living their true self.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And because maybe they're so used to, making their own money and being able to do as they please with their money, when it's being given to them in a way where they don't feel like they're earning it, because at a job you have to earn your money, right?
Right.
But when you make that sacrifice to become a stay-at-home mom, my mind makes me feel like some of these wives feel like they're not earning this money that is being allotted to them. So thus they feel this guilt because in their work world, they had to earn it. And the reason why I say I only feel like this about me is because I literally don't know any women in my life that have come from a household where their mothers were stay-at-home moms. All of my girlfriends come from homes where their mother was a working mother. So then they raise their daughters to have the mindset of working is good. You can go out and you can make your own. You can do for yourself. So then if some of these women then create the life where they're now living as a stay-at-home mom, they immediately feel this sense of guilt because they literally don't know any different. And I myself am guilty of that. I myself come from a line of women that are working women, going back to my great-grandmother. They were all working women. I literally don't know any woman in my family that has been a stay-at-home mom except for me. At a certain point in my life, I was a stay-at-home mom with no side hustle at all. And that was after I decided to leave my career of almost almost 10 years. And of course, I then felt that feeling that many women feel, which is this guilt of my husband is out there busting his ass, sometimes working 2-3 jobs.
Yeah, at one point.
And I don't want to say jobs in the sense of like, you weren't working at different places, but you had your own
Different means of income. Yeah.
You were self-employed in many different avenues. And
Yeah.
there were times that you would literally just come home to like lay your head and go back out and do what it is, whatever it is you had to do to bring. And there were times I felt this immense amount of guilt about how money was being spent, even if it was on me or in the children. And I now realize that it had to do with how I was raised and what I saw the women in my family do. And now because I wasn't sitting in those same shoes, I felt guilt as I should be out making money too. Even though me being home, in essence, was saving us money.
Yeah. I think that was once we realized that financially we were better off taking on that dynamic where one of us was working and the other one was staying home, it financially made sense. And so on that reason, that's why we decided to go that route. But a lot of people don't see it that way. They just, that number one priority is gotta work, gotta produce an income, gotta bring in money, and And when you're not doing that, you feel like you're not doing your like part of your purpose.
Yes. And that's what I mean about not living your true self. And that is a constant fucking struggle as a woman, because when we do go out and work, then we have the other guilt, which is I'm not home enough with my kids. It is a constant fucking back and forth. It's like a seesaw, you know?
Yeah.
By the way, where have seesaws gone? That's another conversation. I go in the park, I never see them anymore. I'm like, where the fuck are the seesaws? I just thought about that. But
I want to say that it's probably one too many kids jumped off the other end of the seesaw to
that would
hurt
be I.
the other one, that somebody decided, yo, we got to cut this out.
That would be me. Jumping off it, jumping on
just
it,
letting
having
it
my
go.
friends jump off of it.
No, like, you know, so what it is, like when you come down and you're supposed to push back up to bring the other person back down, you just get off.
Yeah,
and
and
they
the
come
other
slamming down to the ground.
Yeah, because, you know, some of us kids are little assholes.
Like, got him.
But I'm sorry. That's how ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. That's how my brain works
Where
sometimes.
have seesaws gone?
Yeah, but that's how I feel. It's like a fucking seesaw for women. So I would just like to put out there, ladies, if you are a working wife, working mom, if you're a stay-at-home mom, regardless of what situation you are in, you are doing your best. And just understand that. Like, literally, you are doing your best.
Yeah.
And I speak from experience because I have done both. I have been the wife that has stood home and not been out working. I have been the wife that has worked and we put our children in daycare. And I had guilt on both ends. It is only now that I fluctuate between being at home and still managing my career that I never feel any sense of guilt. To be honest, there are times where I'm just like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
You know, a huge part, from what it sounds to me, that is kind of missing in that dynamic, I feel, is acceptance, right? And what I mean by that, when in a situation like that where you're not living your true self, you can do one of two things. You can live in the guilt of the past that never was, or you can accept the present for what it is and embrace that as your true life. I mean, it really is a power of perspective in that sense. And I feel like acceptance, anyone who can harness acceptance in that situation and really manipulate the way that they see things and accept what it is that they're participating in, that barrier will allow that person to really give their all to what it is that they're committing to, because they're seeing that as that this is my trueness, this is my happiness.
Yeah.
You know, but that's something that is not easily done.
It's not easily done. We live in a world that is set up that the majority of household, it has to be two working parents.
Yeah.
And people don't have what I consider a luxury to one of the parents to stay home in order to take care of the children or manage the household. It is easier said than done. Because when I think back to the beginnings of our relationship, or even previous to that, when I was a single mom, those options were not allotted to me. So I agree with you. There definitely has to be acceptance of your scenario that you are in.
In order to have a little bit more peace within yourself.
That is, and you know me, I'm always on a journey for peace.
That's right.
But what I will say is about the acceptances, the world that we live in, the society that has been created for us through all of these new extensions of people. And I mean, computers, TVs, laptops, phones, all of these ways of being able to see what other people are doing makes it very hard to accept your current state. And it's a fucked up thing, because I think when I look back on life before the internet, it was very easy to go about life and not thinking about one other person unless you actually physically saw them. Yeah. And about what they were doing with their life. And the moments of comparison, I felt like, were more minimal, where now it's like it's right at the palm of, right at the tip of your fingers. Yeah. The ability to compare how you live your life versus how someone else is doing it. It is so easy to look at other moms that are fit, that are fucking, writing novels, they're doing all these epic things, and you're just like, fuck, I made myself a cup of coffee today. It makes you feel like shit sometimes.
Yeah, I can see your point there, and it definitely is more of a challenge nowadays than it probably was, 10, 15 years ago. But all the same, still as important, never to lose sight of something as as far as being able to harness acceptance, because it can be very powerful.
Yeah, in a book that I'm reading recently, it talks about just make these things invisible. Literally just turn these things off.
Yeah.
Remove them.
Because they're distractions is really what they are.
It just remove them. And I always think about some of the gurus that I listen to, and they talk about just turn off the noise. That will help you in your journey towards acceptance. Now, talking about acceptance, what I found insane is, did you know that finances are the number one reason, or excuse me, one of the main reasons of divorce? It is second behind infidelity.
Money is the root of all evil.
Do you think so?
I mean, it's what they say.
Who's they?
I don't
Evo?
even know who they are. It's just like this invisible group of people that just say everything, and we get our information from what they say. Mm-hmm. I just always found it funny and interesting, and this is again my own personal opinion, how they say money is the root of all evil. Mm-hmm. How they say money is the root of all evil. Mm-hmm. On money, it's literally printed "In God We Trust." Mm-hmm. And that was all created by one being. And it's just interesting to me how like they're all tied together in one way.
I understand. You just know that I don't believe in that.
I know. I just so like they're money is like the one thing that causes a lot of people to do fucked up things.
Well, it's actually the number one reason why couples fight.
Yeah.
It is the number one argument source in a married life.
Right.
It is the number one for a multitude of reasons. Think about all of the different ways couples could fight about or argue about their money and how their money is being managed. But something that has come to my attention that I personally didn't even think about, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we are from somewhat of an older generation, so we didn't incur these same problems. And what I'm speaking about is debt. A lot of these newer couples that are getting married within the last decade or so, maybe a little bit earlier than that, are starting off their marriages with large amounts of debt. And it's coming from all different ways. So one of the biggest arguments right now in the United States is student loan debt.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that are entering into marriage with large amounts of student debt. What do you think is the second debt that occurs in a marriage that they then enter into jointly with?
Credit card debt.
Yeah, but why?
Because
think about it. They enter into the marriage with it already pre-existing. What is something that they could do jointly that they then go into it together with?
Oh, getting home.
Okay. The second most occurring debt for married couples is a wedding. Many couples will have a wedding.
Wow. You know why I didn't even think about that.
I know why you didn't think about that, but I'm gonna touch on that in a second. Many couples now feel the pressure to have these lavish weddings, and they spend way outside of their means.
Yeah.
And a lot of the purchases that are made for the wedding are made on credit cards. Then they enter into their marriage with a good amount of additional debt on top of maybe what they had individually. But this is a joint thing that they created before they even got married.
So let me just give the viewers and listeners a bit of advice. Take it from someone who worked in weddings for almost 8 years. I've seen the most basic weddings to some of the most lavish weddings.
Yeah.
And I've also been around long enough to find out a lot of them that failed and a lot that they succeed, because they, those couples, they would come back to the venue, because there was a restaurant also there, so we would see them, and you would see that these couples were still around, and they would come, or you'd see one come around and find out that they're no longer together with someone. And a lot of these weddings that were just huge and lavish ended up being a big waste of money. And so the takeaway for me from that was that whenever I did get married, it was going to be with whatever it is that I had. And I also knew that all it took was good food and good music to make a great party.
Word.
It doesn't matter how much money there is, okay? And that was a big decision that we made.
I didn't even want a wedding.
Yeah, well, so
you were a little bit more traditional in that sense.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did. It was a wonderful experience, but I was just like, we could just hop on a plane and go somewhere.
The thing that I was most strict about was that we had this amount of money, and that's what it was going to be. It wasn't going to be nothing outside of that. We were not going to put anything on no credit cards or no debt. We were just going to get the best DJ that we could, the best food that we could, and and a nice photographer.
Yeah.
To capture it all.
Oh, he was wonderful.
He was great, and it ended up being an amazing party. Thankfully,
that's what it was. It was a fucking
it
party.
was an amazing party. It was a celebration of us getting married, and I mean, no one was sitting for hours. It was just everybody was dancing.
Yeah.
It was a great time, and the best decision of that was that in the end we had no debt.
Yeah.
So people,
we were actually on the upside, because once we received a lot of the monetary gifts, we had some of it. We put some of it away, and some of it we used on our.
Yeah,
on our
I mean,
vacation.
we ended up getting reimbursed a good portion of it through the gifts and stuff like that. But
not a good portion, a very small portion, but
listen, the amount really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The important part is that we didn't go into it in debt. Okay, and we weren't looking to climb out of a hole. That's the last thing you want to do is when you get married, is to get married into a hole and then have to climb out together for something that has no appreciating value. You make this huge investment into something,
but it's not an investment.
Well, I mean,
a wedding is not an investment. A marriage potentially could be an investment because it has longevity and there's return on it. But what return on investment do you get? And there is no return on investment in a wedding.
You're right.
The actual event.
It's an actual, so you spend all this money on something that has no return.
Yeah. And that's...
Which is, it's just not a good decision.
Yeah.
Period. So do yourself a favor if you're listening. If there's one thing that you could take away from this specific episode, is that if you're going to get married, you plan on doing it. If you're in the process of planning for it, stay within your budget.
Yeah.
You will thank yourself many years down the road that you didn't overdo it and that you're digging yourself out of a hole for something that is producing no money for you.
Yeah. My wedding dress was $300 from David's Bridal.
And you looked amazing.
My earrings were $8 from Mandy's. I was like, we gonna do this.
You did a great job, man. I'll tell you that.
I think it just had a lot to do with I was happy and I am happy, and that's all that mattered to me. I didn't really care about the other things.
Of course. And you had an amazing maid of honor too.
Yes, I did. And that's all I had was a maid of honor. I didn't have a bridal party. But not to get too deep into that, I know that people can get caught up with keeping up with the Joneses, because we have been to some lavish weddings.
Yeah, I refuse to.
Yeah, and then we have been to weddings that are like 50 people, and the liquor's flowing, and we had an amazing time.
Yeah, we went to a wedding at a restaurant.
Yeah,
that was
amazing.
Off the hook.
Yeah, it was absolutely an amazing experience.
Listen, all they were serving was sangria, and it was one of the best weddings that I ever went to.
Yeah, because the energy was
amazing.
The energy was
the
amazing.
Food was great. The music was great.
I think at the end of the day, that is what is most important. So it's sad to know that there are couples that will place themselves in debt, and then from that debt, it will cause reoccurring arguments within their new marriage. Could you imagine being newlywed, and let's say you already have some pre-existing individual debt? Maybe it's student loans, maybe it's some credit card debt, and now on top of that, you add debt from your union. that causes a lot of tension in a marriage. And unfortunately, there are some situations where couples are not openly having really just raw conversations about how to manage their money. And
or they may not even have a plan to strategically eliminate that debt and stay committed to that plan.
Correct. You and I can speak from experience. When we first got together, and this is previous to us being married and being engaged, when we got back together, you had some serious debt. You had
oh yeah, this is like way before.
Yeah.
I was a delinquent. I mean, what do you?
Yeah, I remember going to your parents' home with you and opening a box, and we were trying to figure out where you were with a lot of bills, overdue bills, creditors, student loans. And I remember opening this box and just seeing overdue, past due, delinquent.
I had this weird like belief in my head. I was surely convinced that one day it was just gonna go away. Like they were not gonna they weren't gonna pursue me for the rest of my life. And then one day, like I was gonna be able to outrun this, and the letters would just stop coming. I mean, that's how delusional I was as a kid, you know, and that's how uneducated I was.
You weren't a kid, though.
I was a kid. Mentally, I was still a kid.
You think so? You were 25.
To be thinking like that is a mentality of a kid. As far as financially go,
Well, you weren't a kid. You were thinking like a kid.
Yeah, that was like I said. My thoughts were this. I was like.
No, you said I was a kid.
Yeah, and thinking that way.
Yeah.
Really, Gina?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Listen, because let's be clear.
You're the worst.
No, I'm the best.
You
were 1000%. Because I want you to take full responsibility. You were a grown ass adult that was basically taking all of these notices that were being mailed to you, telling you, "Hey, you owe us money." You were going, "Yeah, I'm just gonna put this."
But
in
I
a
was
box.
still living at my parents' house. So like,
you were still an adult.
I was not. To me, an adult is someone that can provide for themselves. Like legally, fine. Yeah, legally, I was an adult. But I wasn't living on my own, paying my own bills. You know, I was still being supported by my father. And so to me, I was still a kid.
Okay.
I believe that, you know, a parent's responsibility is to raise you and take you to the point to where you can fend and for yourself. And then that job is over. So I was still dependent on my parents at that point. And so, I just thought that this, like, one day, how long can they chase me for this? Like, isn't there a statute of limitation on this shit? Like, there's gotta be, you know. I knew the law pretty good. That's one thing I had a lot of experience.
And Evil didn't know the law because he was reading law books. He knew the law because the law and him were having run-ins.
Somehow we ran into each other a lot. You know, we were always in the same place at the same time. And so I'm like, yeah, I know there's a statute of limitations on this. I'm just going to ride this out, and they're not going to, that was very wrong about that. So eventually.
We definitely had to do some deep diving into your finances to set up a system, a plan. And this is what we did. We organized all of your debts, and we set up a plan of how you were going to make payments onto these debts to get yourself out of the hole that you were in. And I'm happy to say that you were fucking on point with that shit. Once we set it up, you played no games.
Nah.
And I think even some of your debts you paid off ahead of time.
Yeah.
I think there was even times where you were just paying it so religiously that you almost forgot that you were paying these things.
It got to the one of my bills, I was paying over what the payment was due. And so what I ended up doing was occurring 2 years worth of payments ahead of time.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to get the bill, and they were like, your next bill is not due for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And I would just keep sending the payments.
Yeah.
Because I wanted it to be over with.
Yeah, you were busting your ass for that.
Yeah, I was. Once I got a little bit of taste of what it was like to kind of get out ahead of that, and the doors that began to open as far as like opportunities and things like that, really, you know, I grew an appetite for that, and I wanted more of it. And so thankfully, you know, we sat down together, and you kind of, you know, you were being, at that point in your life, you know, you were very responsible with your finances. And so, kind of
Even
like,
though we were the same age.
yeah, well, I mean, you had a lot more responsibilities than I did.
I was an adult.
Yes, you were. You for sure were. Shit. Yeah. And that was great. I needed that in my life. I needed that balance. And
Yeah. You definitely did.
Yeah.
Because you were walking around with your head on backwards.
I didn't give a fuck.
You had a beautiful heart, but your brain was scrambled.
I did not give two fucks. I'm like, see you when you see me, boy. So
He was like, homie decline. He was like, fuck the man. Homie, don't play that.
Nah.
But listen, the key is that we sat down and we created a plan. There was no hiding what was happening. And I feel very grateful that you opened that part of yourself to me, because you could have continued to hide that, because there are many couples that will do this. And this is why finances becomes the number one argument of a married couple.
Yeah.
And then it's the second reason why couples are getting divorced.
Yeah.
Not understanding how to properly manage your finances when you are a unit, it's basically like you're playing tug of war.
Yeah. I always felt that being open and honest is the best way to find someone who's a perfect match for you. Mm-hmm. And I know that's easier said than done, but I know that from my own experience, taking that route and being open and honest, of course, it's going to scare some people away. Some people are not going to like what they see, and they are going to exit stage left. But there's that chance that someone comes along and sees what's going on and accepts it and says, you know what? I'm okay with this, and I'm actually going to work through this. We're gonna work this out, and that's the person that you want to really kind of like hunker down with, you know. But it's not going to happen unless you're really putting your cards out on the table. You know, like, listen, this is the deck I got. Let the person know the devil that they're dancing with.
Oh.
I mean, because at the end of the day, if they accept that, then it's, to me, that's a perfect match. And so I felt that, like, if me and this girl are gonna go somewhere, she needs to know what she's dealing with, because this is not gonna come out and bite me in the ass later on down the road. And so when you have people that get into these relationships and they're hiding their finances, and it comes out later on, then that's gonna cause a big argument.
Like you said, having a plan is key.
Yes.
You and I, once we got married, and even previous to our marriage, we already had a system in play. You and I were both, hey buddy, you and I were both working. Both of our children were in childcare, and we luckily had an income division where we basically split our bills right down the middle. And we did it in a way where I was responsible for all of the house responsibilities and bills regarding, like, electricity, food, water, all of these things. And Evo always paid like just the one large chunk of the rent or the mortgage or whatever it was. And at the end, it wound up, for the most part, being the same. And then we just carried that on until, when we bought our home, it was the same thing. I was working, you were working, you paid the mortgage, I paid all the bills. That's just how we did things for a very long time. When it shifted is when I left my full-time job, and then we had to redistribute how we were going to handle our finances. That it was difficult for us because, again, I was so used to doing my part, paying my portion, and I felt this immense amount of guilt. And I will say that one of the ways that that guilt was really diminished was your constant support, positive reinforcement, letting me know that this is a decision that we made together, and that there should be no guilt in that decision, because this was for the better of the family. So that being said, I'm interested to know what are some of these ways to manage finances as a couple, as a married couple, because I feel like you and I have already done 2 of these type of scenarios.
So the one that you're speaking about is it's the scenario where you split the bills according to the income that you make. So if you combine the 2 incomes and you mathematically figure out how much of a percentage of the income is one person's and how much of a percentage of the income is the other person. So, for example, if I make up 65% of our total income, then I take responsibility for 65% of the bills, and you take percent of the rest, and
the other 35%.
The other 35%. And then in that dynamic, there's many different degrees of like how you can manage it along the way if the finances change.
If there's like a fluctuation, let's say your salary increases, but mine continues to stay the same, or vice versa.
Yes, then you manage. You manage and adjust the bills according to the income, and so that's the approach that we took, and it's worked out great for us. All the finances, you keep your personal finances, your money separate, but you together pay all of the bills based on how much money one makes versus the other.
So this is interesting. When you say you keep your finances separate, you and I have chosen as a married couple to keep our finances separate in the aspect of we actually have separate bank accounts.
Yes.
We don't have anything joint. We have, I think, one joint credit card. But we don't have any accounts joint. So we actually don't even see how each other spends money.
Right.
We are kind of like on an honor system, because you and I respect each other to know that we are going to handle those bills that we have said we can handle based on our split when it comes to our finances. And I'm happy to say that we have never run into any issues.
No.
But we have had to have several conversations about how to reevaluate our finances, because things have changed along the years.
Absolutely.
That being said, I heard something recently from Steve Harvey that I thought was very interesting, and I'm considering maybe you and I doing this. He suggested that you have 4 bank accounts.
Right.
Which is 2 for individual. You have a bank account, I have a bank account. Then there is a joint savings where you are both, the husband and wife, or the couple is putting money, a percentage of their finances into that joint savings account. And then there is the 4th bank account, which is just to pay the household responsibilities, which is mortgage, utilities, whatever it is that has to be put into the home comes out of that bank account. But he really made it a point to say that husband and wife should have their own separate money, because it will minimize the amount of arguments that will happen about how money is being spent when it comes to like personal, your hobbies, leisure. And I was very adamant about that in the beginning of our relationship. I was like, I don't need you to know how much I spend on these shoes, because if it's my money, what difference does it make what I spend on it?
Right.
But I can see how that could become an issue for a wife that is not working. She's getting maybe money put into a separate account, but at the end of the day, if that money is being put into a separate account for her to spend as she pleases, there should be no guilt behind that.
Yeah, that's the combine all finances, but each couple gets their own fun money approach.
And that fun money, I think, should also be based on a percentage of how the salary should work, and some sort of budgeting system, because you don't want to be giving your spouse money that you can't afford to give your spouse,
right,
based on your overall household finances.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the bills come first. Then once that's all taken care of, whatever's left from the income, a certain percentage is put towards the savings, and then after that, you figure how much of what's left over goes to each other.
Yeah.
And then maybe like a miscellaneous fund. Because you just never know. There should always be something like certain percentage every week goes to this miscellaneous fund.
That would be the savings.
Well, yes and no. I mean, because technically speaking, there is a formula. I think it's like a 40-30-30 or something like that. Don't quote me on that number, but on how you're supposed to split up your income so that you can strategically pay your bills, save, and invest, and have your own personal expense, through the course of time, and it stays on a trajectory based on those percentage. So, I would think that Steve Harvey and his wife, there's a certain percentage of that income that goes to the savings, and then maybe they invest that savings into something that matures over time.
Yeah, that accrues some sort of ROI for them. Yeah. So. You've given us I feel like 2 examples at this point. There's this split
there's so
the split of finances.
There's a split of finances. There is the combine your finances, but each couple gets their own fund money.
Mm-hmm.
There's the put all of your finances into one account, and everything gets paid out of that account.
That makes me, when you said that, like my hand like curled up a little bit. I got a little uncomfortable when you said that.
Yeah. So this is for couples that really need 100% transparency.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is not for everybody, but if you generally feel that you can't, it doesn't sit easy with you without knowing what your partner is financially doing with all of their money, and your partner feels the same, then these two people would benefit from this type of relationship, this type of money managing relationship, where everything goes into one pot and they tally up the income, they carve out an agreed amount for budget for bills. Then they also agree on everything that's spent on each other. So for example, if I need a new exhaust system on my car, we have to agree on it. If you need something, we have to agree on it. It's like the two signatures, situation where everything has to be
there has to be checks and balances.
Yeah, there has to be checks and balances. And that to me just does the same thing that it does for you. Like, it just really doesn't sit right with me, because it doesn't really give somebody their own personal choice about what they want to do. But apparently there are people out there who would prefer this, because it is one method of managing money in a relationship.
When you say this to me, the two thoughts that immediately pop into my head are a couple that maybe is managing a small amount of finances and they're trying to stretch it really far. So every dollar that is spent is crucial. So there is really potentially no window for money to be wasted. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. So let's say you have two couples that are making, a small amount of a yearly they're making not a large yearly salary, but they are trying to manage their home and their family with that money. I could see how every dollar would be so important, how that dollar is spent. And then the other scenario that I think of when I hear this is a couple that maybe has experienced previous mismanaging of money on one of the partner's ends. And now there has to be this complete transparency of how money is being spent, because there potentially is a lack of trust of how money is being spent. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a situation where transparency is a must for whatever reason it may be.
Yeah.
Like you said, money is scarce. Every dollar is very important. So keeping track of every cent that goes through is crucial. Yeah. Because any offset, any disturbance in the budget could really inconvenience the lifestyle. Or in a situation like you just stated as well, where there's been deception, and someone was blindsided financially. I mean, if you're blindsided financially in any which way, it hurts. You get a bill that comes that you weren't expecting. That hurts. I mean, I think we can all...
Evo can speak from experience, because he got a little letter from the IRS the other day that when he opened that shit, his eyes opened up like fucking Bugs Bunny.
That shit was messed up, man. Because I did the right thing. He
definitely did.
I did the right thing. I sent these people their money. They got it. And they did something funny with it, and they separated it, and applied some payments to this, that, and the third.
They did some bullshit.
And then they try to tell me like, "Hey, you never sent us this money, so you owe us plus penalties and fines." And I'm like,
"You're like, God damn,
no, you mother!" And then like, try to get in touch with the IRS right now. So it's like, I had no choice. I had to pay it, and then now to try to get in touch with them to straighten it out, they're like, "Yeah, they're doing the I see you when I see you type shit."
Yeah, that shit burns. So it's I could understand I can understand how that one particular managing of money comes into play. The reason why it makes me feel uncomfortable is because I just feel that that is created for a lack of trust. And when there's a lack of trust when it comes to managing your finances, because it is the second reason why couples get divorced and the number one reason why couples fight. I think that there's going to be still some really large arguments that come from that as a whole.
Yeah.
Because maybe one of the partners may not understand why purchases are even being made.
Yeah.
And then there has to be an explanation, and then you feel like you're being interrogated. And unfortunately, I'm looking at it maybe on the more negative side versus the positive side, because I think the positive side is maybe they're working to get out of debt, and doing it together feels more like a team effort.
Yeah. I would like to think that at some point that enough money is saved, or the strict circumstances of this arrangement are no longer necessary.
Yeah.
That, you know, some of these parameters can be loosened a bit, you know, and things can change. Maybe jump into a different way of managing your money as a couple.
I would think that type of scenario is something that should be temporary. And once maybe some of their financial burdens are alleviated, they can then, or there has been trust reestablished.
Yeah.
Then maybe they can go from continuing to have that account, but then having their own accounts so that they can do as they please with money for, like we say, these fun things.
Yeah. Unfortunately for some people, that's going to be their life for the rest of their life. You know, some people, they pick a career and they really don't they don't take chances. They don't look for growth. You know, they find a lane that they're comfortable within, and they stay steady the pace. Yeah. You know, this is what works. This is what gets me by day to day, and this is where I'm going to stay, because, you know, I don't like change.
I know why that makes me feel so uncomfortable. Yes, it's the trusting, but it makes me think about how women lived their lives a long time ago, where women had to ask for everything, and that makes me angry. So I know that's why that once you said it, I felt uncomfortable for multiple reasons.
Well, I mean,
I'm all about financial
fortunately,
freedom.
there's many different ways to go about this arrangement.
Listen, real talk, ladies and gentlemen, I don't even like the fact that I have to sign on even when I do our taxes together. I don't even like the fact that I have to sign on the line that says spouse. Why do I have to sign on the second line? Why doesn't it just say signature? What difference does it make? Why does he always get to sign first? If we're doing our taxes joint and our income is going into the house jointly, why is it that everything on every single document has to be you first? That is so archaic to me. I think it should just say signature and signature. It should not matter which fucking line I sign on, because what if we were same-sex marriage?
Then there's one person who's still the spouse.
But that's my point. Aren't you my spouse too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So then why is it that you get to sign first? That shit blows my mind. That is one thing.
Right. So you're saying it says my name.
Yes.
And then
it says spouse.
Whoever you are.
Yes. It's like primary signature, spouse.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's all.
You are my spouse too.
Old documents that, you know, that when they were prepared, it just haven't been changed.
And that's why when you said that, that's the feeling that I felt. That fire in my stomach immediately was like, That also makes me, it makes me think about when we got married, that when we're introduced as husband and wife, we're introduced as Mr. and Mrs. Evo Trinergistic. Like,
but does
where's
it really
Gina?
bother you though? Because it doesn't pertain to you.
What do you mean it doesn't?
It's
pertain?
not your truth. So yes, you have to sign on this line because that's just the way.
It does pertain to me because I'm signing something with my name that is a legal document, so it 1,000% pertains to me.
I know what I'm saying to you is that the reality is you don't see yourself as this spouse.
You are
right.
You were very correct
when
in
you
saying
look in
that.
the mirror. That's not what you see.
No.
So the fact that you're signing on this line, it should be insignificant to you because that's not who you are to yourself.
When you said that to me, I'm
so
wait, I'm gonna tell you what I thought about. And again, I apologize. This is how my brain works. When you said that to me, you said when you look in the mirror and you don't see yourself.
Oh my God, where did you go?
My brain went to Little Mermaid, where Ursula, she looks into the mirror, and when she pulls it close to her, you can actually see Ursula, but she's like in a disguise, and I'm like, yeah, bitch, this ain't fucking me. Like, Evo, I have you know this about me, and I hope that the listeners and viewers can understand this about me. I have such strong feelings about the ways that women are oppressed when it comes to the dynamic of man and woman. Because in our marriage, I never feel like that. And I want that for everyone. I want that for every woman. There's never a time I feel like I am the second to you.
Right.
But there are still these systems that are put in place that will make me feel like that to a very small extent, because I have to adhere to it somewhat. So like when I signed that document, I feel like that.
Yeah.
When we got pronounced husband and wife, and my name wasn't part of it, and was Mr. and Mrs. Evil Trinergistic. It couldn't just be the Trinergistics, because we are now joint.
Or just Mr. and Mrs. Trinergistic.
Yes. Why did it have to be Evil Trinergistic? Like a bitch didn't exist. Those type of things. And now, I would say that I was more naive back then, because if we got married right now, I'd be like, we dropping that shit. We just the Trinergistics, we are it's not this Evo Trinergistic shit. I feel a way about that type of thing.
Yeah,
and that's how it makes me feel, because
I get it.
we have sons, and we have a daughter. So I don't want our children to go out into the world and ever feel like they are second to anybody. And I want to instill that, especially in our daughter, But so I get fired up.
Yeah, really? I would never guess that.
Shut the fuck up. So tell me another scenario.
Well, so then if you feel a certain type of way about that one, tell me how you feel about this one. How about living off of one income? Right? But I don't think it's not what you think it is, right? Okay. So when I say living off of one income, what do you think? What are you thinking?
I think about how we did it when I left my job.
No.
Okay. Ooh.
Because that's what I thought. What I thought. So the living off of one income scenario is basically...
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say? I'll give you a second chance.
You're going to say that there's actually two incomes in the household, but they're only allowed to spend one.
Yes.
Fuck. And that makes me even more angry.
Yes. So so there's two incomes that come in. Mm-hmm. One income is
used for everything.
Completely set aside for savings and every other thing that that has, and everything that has to do with expenses, and is based off of one income. So it's really a way of living frugal. You kind of like conform to this frugal lifestyle to really confine all of your expenses to fit under this one income.
Okay, but
even though you have this extra income,
okay,
you focus on living your life based on one income, and so you have all this extra money that is either being put into savings. It's a whole income itself that is being put to the side, and you just kind of like live this simple life within the means of just one income.
But it sounds like they're doing it for the right reasons. It sounds like you said that one of the incomes or the salaries or finances or whatever it is being put aside to save.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is being put as you're doing it as a couple, but it's being put away to the income itself. The whole income is being put away to save, versus some of the other methods. They take both incomes and then they divide the bills and everything together, and live and take that out of both incomes.
I'm actually okay with that, because it sounds like the way that in my brain, what I hear is that they're potentially trying to achieve something.
Yes, that's the beauty of it. But when you originally like listen to it,
what I thought you were going to say is that one of the incomes is used to manage all of the finances in the house, and then the other income is managed by one of the partners, and they do whatever they please with it.
No, as a couple, you agree that you're going to take one of your incomes, and that's going to be set aside for savings and to grow in however way you choose to. Yeah.
I would say that I can understand that dynamic, because it sounds like that they're working towards a goal. They're trying to achieve something as a couple, and that sounds like they have a long-term plan that potentially will put them in a better financial situation where then they can have more disposable income.
Yes, if it
works.
Yes. If that money is put in the right place, invested properly over the course of 20, 30 years, compounded the right way, can add up to a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a very interesting.
Kudos to the couples that can do that,
Yeah.
because living below your means,
That's a hardcore commitment.
that shit is fucking hardcore, because I do it in certain aspects of my life. I have not figured out a way to do it for my entire life, because a girl want a pair of jeans.
Yeah, that's
You
living
know?
a very. I believe that you have to live a very minimalistic lifestyle.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that you think you need, you don't even buy. You don't even spend money on. You just really, it's down to the bare necessities, so that everything is off of the one expense, and that additional expense is never touched.
You mean
ever.
everything is off of the one income?
Yes, sorry. Everything is managed off the one income, and the second income is never touched. It always gets put aside
Wow.
and invested into the savings or whatever it is that you've decided as a couple to do for your long-term future.
I applaud these people that can do this, because honestly, that sounds so fucking hardcore to me.
That's a tough one. That is really a tough one. And then there's another one. And this is the last one that I guess we're gonna get into, because we're coming right around to the end of the episode, is splitting the bills 50-50. And when I say split the bills 50-50, I'm talking about if you make $5 and I make $100, we still split the bills 50-50. I was a little bugged out by this, but it is one way that couples manage their finances. And I'm talking about even down, and and it didn't get into details about what I'm about to ask, but I question, okay, what about when we go on a date as a couple?
Oh man.
Are we splitting it 50-50? When we go on vacation, is it 50-50? Like, it's because obviously it's everything joint is split 50-50. I get the bills, groceries, rent, and insurance and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I still think that that's a little harsh, 50-50. You take 50%. I don't care how much you make. I'm gonna take care of 50% of the bills, because that's even. That's down the middle. But I've heard that before, where people believe that everything should be split down the middle. That's how they believe. Everything should be 50-50. Especially like these people, these I don't want to say guys, right? But I have heard from guys. But I think I'm just saying people that are like women want to have more rights and they want more of this, right? Well, everything's 50-50 now, because usually it used to be a man that used to kind of like take care of most of the expenses, and be that provider and blah, 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 but I've heard a lot of guys say nowadays, where they're like, oh, nah, man, everything's 50-50 now, So imagine going into a relationship like that, where the person's like, nah, everything, we're doing it right down the middle, 50-50.
Well, that doesn't sound like a relationship, because you and I have spoke about this before. The core of a relationship is being able to relate to one another. That is the base word of relationship, relate.
Well,
so if you're not relating to your partner, you're not relating and trying to understand their circumstances, then you're not in a fucking, that to me sounds like a dictatorship.
Well, but I can see this working in a relationship where both people make the same amount of money.
Yeah, but that is like that is the most ideal, not ideal. That is a perfect situation.
Yeah.
And how does perfection even really exist?
No, it's not even about a perfect relationship. Is if you just happen.
No, I didn't say perfect relationship. I said perfect situation.
Okay, but I don't think it's even about a perfect situation.
Mm-hmm.
If you generally have two people, they each make $60,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
They just happen to have met somewhere,
Okay.
like each other.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move in together, blah, 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 whatever. And now all of a sudden things are getting serious, and it's like, okay, well, how much you make? Oh, I make 60. You make 60.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, we make the same amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we have all these bills together. I mean, it just makes sense. Split it down the middle.
I can understand in that scenario, but the way that you propose this is that it applies even when they are not making the same amount of income.
Yeah, that's
which
so that's
to
what
me is absolutely ridiculous.
That's what I read, and some people go into the arrangement that way. Maybe they feel guilty that they're not making enough.
Yeah, here comes this,
and they
this
still
word
feel
of guilt.
obligated to take on that responsibility that they enter this commitment. Maybe they really like the person and they're just like, okay, like I'm gonna be submissive about it, I guess, and just deal with it. I don't know. It's one way of managing money in a relationship, and unfortunately, if the finances are heavily off balance, this situation can still be one way to manage that money in a relationship.
Yeah, to me, that doesn't sound like a relationship that is built on compassion and empathy. It sounds like I'm in this for what works for me.
Yeah.
Versus what works for us.
Right.
And if you're looking to be in a relationship and you want it to be in your benefit, then don't be in a fucking relationship.
Or maybe the person who makes the more income, you know, their whole approach is, listen, you know, like, you're gonna have to step your game up. You know,
and that's fine.
You know,
I'm totally okay with you saying to your partner, hey, I would like us to live a different type of lifestyle. And in order for us to do that together, I think we need to look at your long-term plan. That's understandable. But for you to say, where you're at right now, I need you to come up to where I am, regardless of where you are right now. To me, that makes absolutely no sense. And that is a lack of empathy. That is a lack of understanding how maybe you got to that point. So, because one thing I can tell you is that where we are now and the financial freedom that we have, do you think that we would have been able to do this 15 years ago?
No.
Absolutely not. It was a journey. There were so many things that were put into play.
Huge hurdles.
So if I was to, let's say I was to be where I am right now in my life and meet you, the evil that you were 15 years ago, and I go, hey, buddy, I really don't give a fuck what's going on right now, but I need you to be where I'm at this very given moment.
I'll be like, you can stay right there.
Can you see how that makes absolutely no sense?
I mean, I just never would have signed up for it. You know, like my whole deal from the beginning.
15 years ago, you would have been like, see you later.
My whole deal from the beginning was like, this is what you get. Like, there's no second page. Like, I don't even think the menu reaches to the second half of this book right here. So you can pick from you can pick from here, and that's all I got to offer.
Aww.
You know what I'm saying? So, like,
bendito.
And I was very humble about it. I am who I was who I was. You know what I'm saying? And whoever picked me, they were going to be happy with me.
You know what that reminds me of? And then we're going to close after this. You know what that reminds me of? I feel like when I was, looking for a long-term relationship, it was like Wheel of Fortune. And I spin the wheel and I was going, big money, big money, big money.
No
and
whammies, no whammies.
No.
That was from another show.
Yeah, that's from another show. But then it lands on bankrupt.
Unfortunately, I had no bankruptcies. That's one thing I can say I never had.
Oh, man, that shit is funny as hell. We've come so far. So I think the last piece of advice that I would like to close with is be open, be honest, communicate, and put a plan in place.
And understand that there are many different ways to manage money in a relationship. So if yours is not working out the way that you want, do a little bit of research, see what other methods are there, and maybe explore those so that to create better balance in the situation that you're in. For sure. So that brings us to the end of our show. I actually had such a great time having this conversation with you. I always love having talks with you. And I just want to say that Evo and we keep our notes separate. So a lot of the reactions and things that happen on the show are completely organic. Like this shit is not rehearsed. We put out a topic and I'm just like, I'm just like, yo, go figure it out, bro. Right? Go figure it out. But until next Friday, ladies and gentlemen, peace out. Peace out.